Good morning. This is Brian Pierce. I see we've got Brian Kuhn and Doug in the webinar here. So welcome, guys. I think it sounds like you guys are on listen only mode, so I'm not sure you'll be able to speak, but definitely got the chat open if you want to communicate it all there. And see, I'm not sure if you can unmute yourselves or not.
Hey, can you hear me, Brian?
Yes, we can, Brian. Thanks.
Yeah, no
Are
worries.
you able to control your mute now?
Let me see. Yes, I can mute and unmute now.
Okay. Well, I think at this point we've only got a handful of folks in. It might be better if we give you all the ability to mute and unmute yourselves if you like. That way it'll be easier to ask questions and things like that. If we get a large enough group, that might get unwieldy. But I don't know, Jack. What do you think? Is it all right if we unmute everybody?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Makes it
right.
a little easier for now to take questions.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and unmute all the attendees. So if you want to go back on mute, that's totally fine. You can just mute yourself. But I think I need to unmute you first to give you that ability. So bear with me here as I go through and unmute. And we'll get started here in just a minute or two. I thought we'd give a few more minutes to let folks get signed in since we're starting a little early this morning. So. Looks like we've had another person join. Good morning, Jonathan. We've been kind of playing around with the mute settings on the webinar this morning, and I'm going to unmute you so you can mute and unmute yourself. As it currently stands, I think it's locked. So give me just a second here, I'll get you unmuted.
All right, thank you, sir. I saw that it says that I'm unmuted here.
Yes, sir.
I can mute and unmute.
You should have the ability now. Yeah, we're learning as we go this morning a little bit. But
Yeah,
I
actually,
think
where I'm at, I don't have a great internet connection here at home, so I had to switch to my hotspot. So that's why I was a few minutes behind trying to do that this morning.
no problem. We're going to wait another minute, I think, maybe, and then we'll get started. Looks like we've had another person join. Hi, good morning, Brad. I see you just joined the webinar. We've got a handful of folks here, and what we've been doing is I've been going through and unmuting everybody so that you can have control over your mute and unmute settings. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So you'll be unmuted here in just a second. Hi, Brad. You should be able to mute and unmute yourself now.
Okay, this is Brad. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. And Lacey, I see you joined as well. I'm going to unmute you as well so you can then have control over your mute and unmute settings. So Lacey, you're unmuted now. You should be able to talk now, and if you want to, you can control your mute from going forward.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you this morning. All right.
You too.
And we've got Derek. Derek, I'm going to unmute you as well. Your audio is now live. You can mute and unmute as needed.
Thank you.
And Yoon, I see you joined as well. I'm going to unmute you, and your audio is now live. You can mute and unmute yourself.
Okay. Good morning, man.
Good morning. Hope you're doing well. Daniel, I'm going to unmute you. So Daniel, you should be able to mute and unmute yourself now.
Hi. Hello, hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, I think I've muted or unmuted everybody at this point, so we can all talk. We'll certainly have the chat open if anyone can hear me but can't speak and would like to. Please just put a message in the chat, and we'll keep an eye on that. And I think we can go ahead and get started. It's showing about 7 after, so welcome and thank you for attending our Ultimate Test Drive. It's part of the Triad ISSA Security Summit. We're excited to be partnering with Palo Alto to sponsor the conference again this year, and we did the same thing last year and had a great experience by doing some training sessions and sponsoring sessions and things like that. So we're excited to see you all here. I'm always happy to see that we have a Triad focused event, and we have folks turning out and showing up for the event. So very happy to see that we've got a good group of folks on the call. I think I know many of you, but for those of you I don't know, my name is Brian Pierce. I'm an account executive for Data Network Solutions, and I'm based in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, so right in the Triad. And I'm really just trying to help facilitate this morning. I'm going to turn things over to Mr. Jack Daniel, who's one of our senior systems engineer, actually our founding systems engineer. And Jack's going to be your pilot as we go through the ultimate test drive on the Palo Alto VM-Series for Microsoft Azure. So, Jack, I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, thank you, Brian. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're doing well. So what we're going to talk about today is, this is Palo Alto's slide deck, and it's their presentation for their VM-Series for Microsoft Azure. By a show of hands, using the raise your hand, how many of you have experience with Palo Alto? So we've got a few. All right. So basically, if you've seen Palo Alto, what they've done is they've taken their product and made a VM out of it that can be managed from the cloud so that we can then take it to things like Microsoft Azure and Amazon Web Services to prevent data breaches and protect the environment in the cloud. So we talk about the cloud, what are we really talking about? Well, you basically have data and applications everywhere, kind of as the slide says. I'm gonna need to mute somebody. I got some background noise. Sorry about that. So data applications are everywhere. You've got the private, you've got infrastructure as a service, you've got physical as a service, and you've got software as a service. All of these things are in the cloud. At this point, you've got to be able to protect yourself. Well, what happens when you move your data and applications is you have not absolved yourself of the responsibility of protecting what's there. So as we move to the cloud, securing the cloud becomes a bit of an issue because you end up with fragmented security in that if you don't pay attention, you end up with multiple tools doing things. So in Azure's case, you've got Azure Security Services that is port-based, and we'll come back to that in a little bit about why that's an issue. Then you've got things that are from a manual security standpoint, where you're trying to either write scripts or use IP chains on servers or whatever, those types of things. But then those introduce human error and configuration problems. So what do you do? How do you get around that? Well, you get around that by bringing advanced application and data prevention to the environment. You bring a consistent, you need consistency across either your physical location or your cloud environment, and you need a way to be able to manage this stuff frictionless. Well, the way Palo Alto does that with Microsoft is they actually have a partnership in place where you have a shared responsibilities model. So as you look at this graph, you see responsibility on the left column. You have on-premise, the infrastructure as a service, and security as a service. And who has responsibility? Well, for data classification accountability, the cloud customer always has that responsibility. However, as we move down into the right, we see the physical security. That's the cloud provider's responsibility. So where this goes is, as you move through the environment, you want to take care and make sure you're doing the best effort that you can where you still have responsibility. So in this case, we're looking at, I talked a little bit a second ago about Microsoft at their security level only has can only do port-based protection on their firewall, on the external firewall that runs in the Azure model. Well, what happens if an attacker uses SSL to obfuscate an application? Is that model from Microsoft, is that security model from Microsoft going to help you in that instance? And the answer is quite honestly no, because what they're doing is they're hiding an application inside. So what we need is a way to see traffic by application, and that's where Palo Alto has made its living for the last 6 or 7 years, is being able to bring visibility into what's going across your network. And this is a slide that talks about the Palo Alto Networks and Azure partnership. I'm not going to read this. You can read it for yourself. But basically it says, hey, these two organizations realize there's a need to bring better security. There's a need to let each do what they do best. Microsoft does best at providing that infrastructure and that software as a service capability. Palo Alto says, hey, we can do the security piece of that. So the way Palo Alto does it is they take their hardware firewall and they make a virtual machine out of it, hence the VM-Series. And what this does is it protects protects against thefts of data and threats. Gives you visibility of application, gives you application visibility, and also gives you the ability to manage centrally whether you are on-prem or cloud. And most people aren't either all cloud or on-prem anymore. They're now a mix. So wouldn't it be nice if you had a vendor that allowed you to manage your firewalls both on-premise and in the cloud as though they're through a single management architecture? And we can do that with Palo Alto. Any questions so far? And if at any point you have a question, knock yourself out. This can be a conversation. So what does Palo Alto do? Palo Alto takes what are known threats and protects against those by using its built-in tools, but it also takes what is unknown and protects against the unknown. And how does Palo Alto do that? Well, Palo Alto does that by this facility called Wildfire. Wildfire is a process by which when a file traverses the firewall, Palo Alto runs a hash on that firewall and says, hey, do I know about this file? If Palo Alto knows about this file, then it makes a decision based on a setting that you defined as to what to do with it. If Palo Alto doesn't know about this file, it asks its cloud environment, its advanced threat protection cloud, and says, hey, do you know about this file? And if the cloud says, no, I don't know, Palo Alto will then forward that file to the cloud. It will explode it, run it, see what happens, log every single thing that file does. If it does anything malicious, it will categorize it, make it malicious, and then send that update to all Palo Alto firewalls in the environment. Not just yours, but also in everybody's environment. So that's how Palo Alto takes the unknown threat and protects you and other customers against it. Excuse me. We can also take and segment whitelist applications. Because the Palo Alto understands application traffic, i.e. it knows what web browsing is, it knows what Spotify is, it knows what BitTorrent is, it knows what SharePoint is. You can write rules around traffic that says only allow these applications, hence whitelisting of applications. If somebody tries to do an example might be doing a DNS query, but doing on a non-standard port, we would say, hey, here's DNS, but it's running on, the Palo Alto would see it running on the non-standard port and said, you know what? No, we said we're only going to allow DNS to run on TCP and UDP port 53. Here's somebody trying to do DNS, what they say is DNS, on some other port, and it's not, no, we're going to throw that away. Or conversely, they're going to try to take TCP 53 and UDP 53, knowing that port 53 is open, and say, hey, let's go do a file transfer across this. Well, because the Palo Alto says, no, I don't see a DNS request or a DNS response in this packet, I'm not going to allow that traffic out. And as I also, we prevent east-west malware propagation. Because we sit in the data center, we can look at traffic as we go from server to server. And you have all the same protections that I just described about application whitelisting. So the tools we use to automate in the cloud. So we have bootstrapping, which is the process by which we can send base configuration, policies, and licensing information for the VM-Series automatically. We can do dynamic policy updates. We can have log forwarding so that we can better look at the logs. We can do external dynamic list. An external dynamic list is basically a text file on a web server or on a server someplace that the Palo Alto can reach, so that instead of having to give somebody administrative rights to the firewall, what you can do is you can give them the ability to update this list. And when the policy is checked, that list is checked. And so if we had to add a new either fully qualified domain name or a new IP address to that list, that change can be made to the firewall without actually having to log in and giving somebody rights on the firewall to do that. I've seen this used particularly in schools and school districts and state agencies where, especially in July, where we get lots of vacations happening, and a new alert comes out. An application developer doesn't have access to the firewall, but a CERN has sent out a new notice, hey, we need to stop traffic going to these destinations. That application developer can go update that text file, and now the firewall has been updated to protect against that new threat. Also, if you're in the mood, you have the ability to do XML API integrations. So you have full ability to write code so that you can access the Palo Alto API. There are also deployments available for Terraform and Ansible, so you have playbooks that you can use if you need to do things through those applications as well. So I talked about bootstrapping. This is what it does. It simply gives you the basic PanOS configuration, the software updates and dynamic content, and then attach this to a Panorama device group. You're actually going to do this in the lab. We're going to use the Azure Security Center support to deploy the VM-Series firewall. You'll be able to see security events, and you also have a single pane of glass for all Azure-related security events. VM-Series on Azure for Government. So this gives you the ability to bring your own license to deliver all the same functionality for your on the Palo Altos for your Azure environment. We also have VM-Series for Azure Stack. So if you've got a private data center, and then we have a couple of different licensing, you have a licensing deployment where you can bring your own license and the VM-Series ELA only, and you can also deploy Azure Marketplace using a bring your own license image. So use cases here are Internet Gateway, Global Protect, for especially in this day and time where we've got lots of remote workers, as we're all remote today with this conference. If you need a way to get access to your resources from home, you can use Global Protect to do that. Flexible licensing options. So when you're in Microsoft Azure, you can do bring your own license, where you already have Panorama on premise. You already have firewalls on premise. Maybe you're even using some VM-Series firewalls inside your existing network. Did I see the question? Derek, I'm going to pause here for a second. Derek's asked a question, what are the opinions on the Azure Application Gateways, WAF? An application gateway or a web application firewall, to me, I've not used the Azure Application Gateway, but in general, those have different functionality than firewalls. Generally, a WAF is used specifically for web or HTTP traffic, whereas the firewall goes beyond just those two applications. So WAF can encompass, and my experience with WAF has been the Barracuda family is Telnet, SSH, web, HTTPS, where you are protecting web servers or web applications that run on those ports, and so they're limited functionality there. Whereas the Palo Alto firewalls actually give you visibility across a myriad of applications. I believe if you look at the Applepedia, we're close to some 3,000 applications the last time I checked. So does that help, Derek?
Yeah, that helps.
Okay. And that also goes to if you've got Palo Alto on-prem, and earlier we talked about having multiple tools, then do you really have that consistency of effort from on-prem and cloud? And that's what we're really trying to drive toward, is where we have a consistent view of traffic, regardless of whether it's on-prem or in the cloud. So again, use the best tool that fits your needs, but at the same time, take into consideration that ease of use and more importantly, ease of troubleshooting. So back to our slide deck. So we have the flexible licensing options where Azure is concerned. You have to bring your own license where you already own an environment, you've got gear on site, maybe you've got VM deployed on site, you already own Panorama, and all you need to do is you've got one instance in Azure and you need to bring up one. Maybe you bring your own license for that. Or if you're concerned about growth, or you want to do, maybe you don't have your own environment yet, maybe you can do pay as you go via the marketplace, or you could do unlimited through the VM-Series Enterprise License Agreement. And as you can see, there are a couple of bundles there. Brian will be more than happy to talk about these offline if you got any additional questions. So the resources we can use to accelerate the deployments. The nice thing about this is there's a lot of information available. As you can see from the link here, Palo Alto actually has a link called live.paloaltonetworks.com/Azure, and there you will find technical publications, existing templates, how-to videos, reference architecture, the discussion forums, a lot of it, and Ignite, and then there's also recordings of other users from Ignite or other presentations from Ignite, which is Palo Alto's end user conference for Palo Alto customers to come together and share and exchange ideas, much like what we're doing today. VM-Series is not a Johnny-come-lately, meaning they're not new to the ball game. Palo Alto has been doing VM-Series for 6 years. They've been doing it on Microsoft now for almost 5 years when they started back in 2016. So there's some depth of use, depth of knowledge, and as you can see, it continues to grow, and new services are continuing to be supported. So we're not just limited to Azure as we are in this case, as we're talking about today, but you've also got Amazon Web Services, you've also got Oracle Cloud, you've got Alibaba's Cloud. You can see that last year they added support for Ansible or in Terraform for bringing playbooks, so that if you use that in your on-prem environment, you can now bring that to your cloud environment. And the reason we're all here today to talk about the lab. Yum, 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 yum. So this is what we're going to do in the lab. We're going to log into the UTD workshop, and then we're going to deploy the lab using the Azure Resource Manager. We're going to review the VM-Series firewall, make sure all its pieces parts are there, look at the application command center, talk about network devices and objects, and there's labs around those things. And then we're going to enable an applications-based policy, so that you can see how Palo Alto really does look at the packet and make a determination. Hey, is this really a DNS packet? Is this really an HTTP or HTTPS packet? Do I see that HTTP GET or an HTTP response? Is this a ping packet? All of the neat things you can do with applications. Then we'll do advanced protections for threats and show how you can deploy, and then how threats become an extension of the security policy, how we can then integrate with Azure and Azure's Application Insights. And we're going to do outbound access during a failover with the Azure Load Balancer. And if we get time, we'll get through additional rule strength with Policy Optimizer. And then we've also got a feedback we'd like you to take and let folks know how we did. So the lab environment is two-tiered. We use two functions. We have Cloud Share, and then we also have to use Azure, and we'll give you credentials for those. We have a web WordPress server, a SQL database server, and we also have an Azure Load Balancer to redirect traffic to the VM-Series firewall. So here's the topology that we have. So we have the VM-Series, we have the untrusted environments, We have the management networks on either management addresses for each box. We have the trust environment. Then we have the web server and we have the database server. So this is the deployment that we're going to use for the initial sections of the lab. I apologize, my voice is getting ready to go. I've got to go mute for a second. My apologies. And then, so for labs 1 through 5, this is what we're going to look at. We're just going to look at the top half. The other thing that gray is shaded out, that's the redundancy piece of it. So right now we're going to funnel everything through the one firewall. And then when we get to the next lab, we'll actually bring back in the bottom half of this lower left-hand corner and bring in the rest of the lab, bring in the failover. So how do we get to the lab? Bear with me 1 second. I'm going to swap over to here and get this. And paste this in here. So there, I've pasted what's on the screen into the chat session. Is how you get to the lab. So open a browser, go to that link, and then the passphrase, and then the email address is your email address. And then the passphrase is there, as you can see it. Fill in the details, and then you have access to the cloud share environment. And then this is kind of a little more detail of what we're going to do with the lab. So this is where we're going to actually deploy the lab environment from the Azure Resource Manager. Then we're going to take a look at the firewall that we deployed in, or at the beginning of this activity, we'll actually go in and look at it. Then we're going to do the application-based policies. Then we're going to do the enhanced threat protection for the applications. Then we'll look at the integration with the Azure Application Insights. Then we'll look at outbound access failover using the Azure Load Balancer and the VM-Series firewalls. And then we'll strengthen security rules with a policy optimizer. And then lastly, the response forms. I'm going to swap over to, so I'm going to stop sharing this if I can get out of it. Bear with me 1 second. Don't need that. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. Move this over here. Do this. And that's what I want. Okay, I am bringing up the environment now. I apologize. I thought it started earlier and I just realized I had, and so it's coming up now. So you should be able to get into the cloud share environment now.
Hey, Jack, just to let you know, everyone should be able to log in. I was able to log in successfully, just for what it's worth.
Good deal. I've got a couple of people in. Any questions on the presentation? at this point? Somebody asked us if we could share the link. If we share the link and passphrase again, it should be in the main chat window. Do you not see it? All right, now I'll copy and paste it again. Okay. If you would look in the, can you find the chat window and take a look? I see Nicole, Daniel, Jonathan, Lacey, you. There we go. Have you got it now?
So Jack, is the issue that Brad's not able to see the chat window to get the link? Is that?
I don't know. I sent him a private chat to see.
Okay. Wonder if maybe we could pull it back up on the screen just temporarily. Maybe worst case, he could type it in.
There, can you see that? Is that showing?
Yeah, it doesn't look like you're sharing anything.
Okay. Show main screen. Oh, I know what's going on. It's on a different window. Why? Yeah, what it's showing, it not showing anything. Oh, here we go. Sorry about that.
There we go.
My apologies. I'll figure this web. I'm not good with GoToWebinar. I apologize, folks. We normally use either Zoom or WebEx, so this is a new environment for me. Brad, does that get you? And just so you know, the cloud share environment will time out on you. So while you're doing the Azure stuff in a different browser, make sure that you come back into the cloud share and just tab through the environment. So by that, I mean come in and click on the windows here just to make sure you've got what you need.
Kevin, I see you have a question about the phone number. Or did you have trouble connecting to the audio using the phone?
Hey, Brian, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, for whatever reason, when I put my phone number in, when I try to register, it isn't accepting it. It just says, please use the following signs. and it keeps failing. So I don't know what's up with that. Now,
So you're trying to use the phone to get, well, I mean, you're obviously on
no,
the,
I'm just trying to register for the class environment.
Oh.
And when I click register and log in, it's failing on, you know, the format of the way I put the phone number in. I'm not sure why.
all right, hang on one second. I actually don't have to do that. So if
Yeah, I
I
think
bring up
the first time you log in, you got to put your phone number in, your name, your address. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
talk about this page here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I didn't get to that page. I don't know if I can copy and paste into the chat an image.
I don't know if you can. You can try it. I don't know if you can or not. We can. Well, I'll go through this process.
I don't.
Are you putting a 1 before the phone number, I presume?
I wasn't. Do I need to?
I didn't have to. I have a different area code probably than you do. But, yeah, I just put in a standard 10-digit.
Did you put in parentheses and a hyphen or any of that?
No, I just typed it kind of straight as is.
Well, let me try it again.
All right. So if you're watching, I'm going through it. We'll see what happens.
There we go.
Did you get it?
Yeah, I don't know why it was giving me trouble there, but.
All right.
Oh man.
It's working now though. Is that right, Kevin?
Yeah, it brought up another page, so it must have registered and.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I'm at an Ultimate Test Drive Microsoft Azure Workshop page.
Yep, that should be.
Yeah, I think if you click on environments at the top left, it might show similar to what he's looking at.
So do you see this?
I don't.
This is this.
Oh, maybe I should click on an environment. Let's see.
Yeah.
It says please click here to download the lab files.
Yeah. So you basically you've got the semblance of this page. Remember, I'm on the instructor console. I didn't actually log in. So you've gotten some. You kind of got this. What I've got highlighted is what you have.
I don't see the diagram there. No.
Okay. Yeah, if you click on to download lab files, it'll then take you to another window.
Crap. Sorry for that. It looks like my firewall is blocking it.
Okay.
Or the workshop guide. The Palo Alto is blocking it. That's funny.
I'm sitting behind the Palo Alto.
Well, I'm sure it's where policies are configured.
Yeah, you could have a download files restriction on PDF files.
Man, oh man.
So are you guys doing some URL filtering?
It looks like drive.google.com. That's where.
Or you could be blocking. You could be blocking Google Drive. That's a possibility too.
Probably are. So
should we try to email?
I may just follow along rather than do the labs if I have to go through
I'll gladly go through it. So you have to go to Microsoft.com.
Yeah, pardon me for laughing, but it's ironic.
What's that?
We're secure.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, that's not the feature of the Palo Alto solutions that we wanted to show off today, Kevin. I'm glad yours is doing what it's supposed to do as configured by policy.
Yeah, yeah. And anytime for any firewall change, I have to open a ticket and get approval and, go through all of that. So
You don't have a way to use a different internet connection, an outside connection, or any way, do you?
not easily. I've
Okay.
got, a tiny little Mac here, but my work setup, I've got some nice big monitors that, I don't have
Gotcha.
on my Mac. But I can just follow along and, watch what you guys are doing. So, I mean, that's okay.
Cool. And Jack, did I hear that you could actually email the lab guide over? Is that a workaround
Yeah,
for
I've
at least
got
part
a
of it?
lab guide. Download on my laptop. If you want to type in the chat, just to me or to the organizers, I'll be more than happy to email it to you.
Okay, so on the
I'll
little,
send you. I've got Kevin's contact information.
Okay.
Jack, I'll send it to you in the chat here in just a second.
Okay. This is not. No, that's not what you're supposed to do. Hercules.
Was there another question? Sound like someone was trying to speak up.
No, that's Hercules in the background.
Oh, nice.
So
Jack, do you see Kevin's email there?
yeah.
If anybody else is having trouble, please raise your hand in the webinar window or send us a chat. We're happy to help.
I just gotta remember where I saved it, so I'll know. I think I saved it in the Palo Alto. Should be under vendors, Palo Alto, workshop guide. Choose. Right. Where's the... It should be on the way to you. In the meantime, I've actually got it up on another screen on my computer here, and we'll walk through it. So sign in, actually, portal. And then so we're given a set of credentials to use. Just click on them, it copies into clip to your clipboard, just paste them in here. Same thing with a password. If I could hit paste. Say yes. Yes.
And hey, Jack, we're only seeing about half of that browser window. I don't know if that's intentional or not. But
No, it's not. I'm.
yeah,
What are you?
back to your left a little bit. That might straighten it out for us.
Might be because I'm on a bigger screen.
Maybe so.
Maybe later.
That's
maybe
better.
later. Is that better?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. So this is index activity 0 is actually getting logged in. Then what we have to do next is we actually have to create the storage account to get ready for the VM bootstrap. So the way we do that is we have to create a storage account. And then we have to add, close this. And then we're going to use the default resource group that's available. The name can be anything. I'll just do JWD strg. We got to change the kind to general purpose v1, and then say review and create, and then create. And this deployment actually goes pretty quickly. It's the next deployment that takes about 10 to 15 minutes for it to go through. So then once that's done, so we're going to get an option that says to go to resource, and we're going to click on that button and go to resource. All right, so here's my go to resource. And so next I'm going to create a file share. I'm going to call the file share bootstrap. So sorry, bootstrap here, quota 1 gigabytes, create. Then I'm going to open the bootstrap, and then I've got to create 4 directories, and they've got to, and these have to be a particular name. So I'm going to add a directory. The first one is going to be config, and then the next one is going to be content, and then I'm going to add license. License, and then lastly software. Add a directory called software. SOFTWARE, yeah, that's correct. So now that that's done, we want to go back to they said overview page, the home page. They want us to download some files. Kevin, did you get the lab guide?
I did not.
It didn't come in via email?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on, let me confirm that I sent it. I know I created it. Yeah, it's in my sent lab. It's in my sent items. And I have all folders.
Kevin.ross@essent.us.
Yes, sir. I sure did.
Okay.
I hate to ask, do you have a Google account that I could send it to?
The only problem is I can't log into Google from the corporate network.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'm just
So,
trying.
yeah, it's our security is like, we're a financial institution and
I understand.
it's locked down.
Okay. So so here's the lab guide. I've got it on screen now. Can you see it?
I can see it on your screen. Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm doing, I'm down to step 9
I tried to
here.
download the files too, and the firewalls won't let you.
Yeah, well,
No.
because you're a financial institution, you can't download .zip files by default. So that's that's okay. So it's saying here, go to here, and then what it wants us to do is it wants us to upload some files from the Bootstrap folder, these two files. So that's what I'm gonna do next. So go back to, where did it go? Problem with having, yeah. So, storage accounts, DVD storage, file shares, Bootstrap. I go to config and it wants me to upload files. So I'm going to upload files, select the files to upload, downloads, these two files, and say open, and say upload. All right, so that's completed. And then the next thing it wants us to do, so we've uploaded those, and it says go back to the storage account and the access key strings. So go back to storage accounts. Should go back here, home, storage accounts. So access keys. I need to copy one of these access keys. We'll take this one for grins and giggles. And then I'll come over here. So I got JWD, STRG, I've got Bootstrap, and I have my key. So what it wants me to do is search for template and then find deploy a custom template. And this can be a little bit tricky. So go back home, type in template here, and we're not actually going to execute it. We just want to get this here. Build your own from the editor. We want to load a file. And this time I want to load this Azure deploy.json file. And once it's loaded, say save. And then again, select the default resource group, make sure the location is US East. The Bootstrap account is JWD storage. The Bootstrap access key is this. And then
hey, Jack.
Yes, sir.
Let's throw it out there. Has everyone been able to log in and get going? I know I haven't had anybody else speak up, but just thought it may make sense to make sure everybody's logged in and good to go.
Yeah, and we've had a few folks join just in the past 5 minutes or so. So I don't know if there's a way to catch everybody up. If there's anyone who's having trouble getting logged in, raise your hand in the webinar or send us a chat message, please.
Yeah, from what I can, well, we've got 16 attendees, but I've got 10 environments. One we know about. Brian Daniel, who's?
So Jack, I would be one that wouldn't be there.
Yeah, so that's 2. So that's 14.
And
So I've got
looks like
4
maybe
users.
Martin and Militia joined just a few minutes ago, so I think they probably missed the instructions. I've sent you all the instructions on how to get to the lab environment in the chat window. If you can find that, there should be a link there that will help you get started if you want to join the lab.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it, man. So I agree with terms and conditions, and then you say purchase. And so now the deployment is in process. So now this will take about 10 to 12 minutes for that deployment to finish. So we're in a waiting pattern until this completes, and this is at which point you want to go back to the cloud share environment and kind of tab through to make sure that that your cloud share environment doesn't time out on you. So in the presentation, I talked about the deployment resources that are available on the VM-Series. I'm actually showing that on my screen, but you've got how-to videos, you've got technical documentation, you've got how to build an IPsec VPN, various templates depending upon what you're working on. There's some Terraform and Ansible playbooks, the discussion. There's a video on how to build a basic IPsec VPN. So, and this all can be found at live.paloaltonetworks.com/Azure, and then it redirects you to this. So it's fairly easy to get to. And it's also in your lab guide. So we're still in the deployments. We're still in the deployment process here. Melissa and Martin, did you guys want to join us on the lab?
I'm gonna unmute you all, make sure you can respond here, sorry.
Yes, I'd like to.
Okay, so if you look in the chat window, you'll see I just posted, hang on, I did that to Brad again, my apologies. I'm sending it to the entire audience again.
Melissa, I sent it to you earlier. There you go.
So if you look in the chat window, there's a link there that you can click on, and that gets you into the process. And I'll bring up the PowerPoint deck again, because I think I'm actually on that page or close to it. Oh, that's on another screen, sorry. No, it's not. Where did it go? Where did my PowerPoint deck go? Who stole my PowerPoint? There it is. So you'll click on that link that's in the chat, and then the email address is your actual business email address, and then the passphrase is that DNS-Azure-UTD, and it is case sensitive. So just copy and paste it from the chat into the web browser. And then that'll take you to another page where you put in all your details, and you got to fill out all the asterisk items, which I think is all but 3. And then once you get there, that will take you to an environment that looks something similar to this. You'll have an overview, a Linux, a workshop, and a feedback forum. And then you'll click here to download the lab files. And in there, and then you also want to click on the workshop guide. Once you get to this page, go to the workshop guide, and recommend that you move it out to a separate tab or separate browser so that you can follow along with it, and it'll tell you kind of step by step what to go through. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to speak up or type in the chat or All right, good deal, Brian. Glad to see that you're in. All right. Deployment succeeded. So this is good news. We have, at least for me, it's good. We go to the resource group, and then we can see the different things that are going on here. And if we look at the management NSG, I can look at the inbound security rules and notice that they're port-based, port and protocol-based, but we have no place for application. Well, Palo Alto's, when we get into the Palo Alto firewall, we're going to see have more things that we can add to this tuple. And one of those is going to be application. Outbound security rules, the same thing. Again, no place for application. And that's kind of what the lab guide actually wants us to take a look at and go through. So, virtual machines, network interfaces, security groups. Here we're looking at the management security group, which is what I showed on screen just a second ago. You have user-defined routes at the VM, so we could go back here and let's do this. Look at the VM route table. So we have to our database, our default, our web subnet, and our database subnet. Now I can go back and flip through these two. We have public IPs. We can refresh the lab. We don't need to. We're good there. So now it's saying, how can we actually log into the firewall? Well, let's go do that. Let's go take a look at that bad boy. So let's go here. Deployments, Microsoft templates, outputs. And what this gives us is a list of stuff to be able to get to the firewall. So our firewall IP address is here. So we copy that. I'll just do that in this window here. And when you log in, you get a certificate error, which is fine. They're using self-sign cert. And we have the username. And we have the password. Huh? Obviously, I can't copy and paste. copy, paste, copy, there we go. And so the bootstrapping process is what gave us all of this background information. There's our address objects, there's our policies. And one of the things that I talked about was the ability to recognize application. Notice here we have application and we have something called application default, service of application default. Well, think of service as your traditional port that we're looking at. So TCP 21 or 22 or ping or MySQL, whatever those ports may be. And because I'm looking at this application, if I'm not doing what is defined by the application, and I can actually look at that by going to objects, applications, and this is the Applepedia of all the applications. And I said 3,000 and during the conversation, it was actually 3,167 applications. If I look at SSH, I can come down here and click on SSH, and I can see what it's going to do. It's only going to run on TCP 22, what it's used for, what its risk is used for. So that's where you can find out more information about the applications themselves. One of the nice things about the Palo Alto is you have what's called an ACC tab or the Application Command Center. And right now there's no data here because no traffic's going through here, but this gives you the ability to see what's going on at a high level view, and you can set it for the last hour, last 24 hours. And one of the things the folks here, one of the folks that the engineers here at DNS do, and when we talk about one of the things to do as part of the morning cup of coffee routine is to come and review the ACC to look for suspicious network activity, look for potential threats, and look at traffic that was blocked to kind of set your day up for going and doing your threat hunting if you need to. Kind of been through all this, and again it says, hey, you can go through all these different things. On the dashboard, you have the ability to add additional widgets. So we can look at top applications, top high-risk applications, and right now there's no data found because there's no data going through the box. If you had high availability deployed, you could see high availability, and this is if you're on-prem, not necessarily if you're in the VM-Series. Also, if you want to see information, the nice thing about these tags, so here, this is an address, but notice we have a name here. What if I want to see what the IP address or the information behind that is? I can hover over it, come down and hit value, and it tells me I have a description and what its actual IP and netmask is. And the same thing goes for applications. If I come over to application, come down and do value, I now can see the information that I showed in the object Applepedia. Nice thing about the Palo Alto is you have a monitor tab and you can see the traffic that's going on. So we're logging basically everything. Notice we have the action deny. For those of you that have Palo Altos, maybe you know this, maybe you don't. If you want to eliminate something from being seen in the log, you can filter that by highlighting it, and then you can put an exclamation point in front of it. And Palo Alto will no longer show you in the traffic log, or in this particular traffic log, that source address for traffic. Or if you wanted, you can clear it by hitting the X box. If you don't want to see the denies, you could do the same thing. Put an exclamation point in front of the parenthesis, and now all you see is the allow traffic. If you want to delve into a piece of traffic, find out some more information about it, you can come over here and click on the magnifying glass or the details icon. And now you get a detailed log view about that piece of traffic. So we know that it's session ID, we know that it was allowed, we know that its application is this, we know the rule that allowed it, we know its generated time that started and received time, we know that it was sourced as this, but when it went out as that, and then this is its destination. We know that 21 packets, we sent out we actually sent 7 packets and we got 14 back. And then we also know the type of traffic. So the type of the entries, we have a start and an end, web browsing, Google, and then we moved from web browsing over to Google Base. And then we had an end for Google Base. We have the amount of bytes that were sent. So there's a lot of information you can find so that's the traffic log. You have the threat log, no data, URL filtering, no data. Again, because we're not generating any outbound user-based traffic, I wouldn't expect to see anything here. No wildfire submissions. For those of you that have Palo Altos, this can be a neat map. And a lot of times when you look at this map, notice the Palo Alto shows up here out in the middle of the, is it Indian Ocean? Anyway, the way you get this to move up here is you go to the device tab, go to management, and you set your latitude and longitude. Now, how do you find your latitude and longitude? Well, that's easy. Go to Google Maps. And then type in the address. So I'll use our office address. And right here, are the values that you need. And so you simply copy this, paste it in the lap, and you need the negative value because that's north or south, and negative is north, if I remember correctly. It's east and west, sorry. And paste. And then you say, okay, and you can commit that. Ah, really? Very interesting. So we just got an error on the default install, and it said no valid threat package exists. I'm off the lab here, so I'm just showing tips and tricks if you guys want them. See my firewall now move from down here to up off the east coast of the United States. So let's go here. The lab guide has us go to copy SSH web VM. So that's copied now. Paste that into Linux terminal. Thought the Linux terminal was waiting for a login, and it is. Ah. I am fat fingering passwords. There we go. Which are better. All right, that's good. I think that's me. If I do an IP chicken. Yep, that's me. So there's my traffic verifying that the web browser, that the web server is working. And now it works. Can I get a status check? Just because the only thing I can see is when you're actually on whatever tab, and because a lot of this happens in a different browser that's not actually in the CloudShare environment. Does anybody have any questions? Does anybody have any hangups? Either open up your mic and let's everybody, and we'll talk about them as a group, or if you're uncomfortable doing that, if you would type your questions into the chat session. But if you would just give me a status, you can just do a show of hands if you're progressing okay initially. Sure. Is anybody still here? Am I in this session all alone?
This is Brad. I'm here.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. I saw that. Appreciate it. When you're getting your commits, because you should have done at least one by now. Did you get this error message warning no valid threat content package exists? And if so, do you know how to resolve it? Or have you already resolved it? The way to resolve that is to go to the device tab, come down to dynamic updates, and applications and threats. There will be if you see an install button here, click on that install button. It doesn't, and then when the window pops up, you can close that window. It'll do it in the background. That'll take care of that error message, and then that will then allow this part of the lab to work, the trigger the SQL and brute force attack to work properly.
And Jack, I had to do a check now twice before it would pull in the apps and threats update.
Oh, really?
But yeah,
Okay.
so if you do it the first
Mine was already
time,
there,
it
so
doesn't show you anything, click again, and it should pull it in.
Yeah, for me, it was already there, so my apologies. Yes. Did somebody have a question? Oh, we lost one.
Yeah, Brad typed in the question section that he had something come up and would need to drop off. So
Okay.
Hi, everyone. This is Brian. I just wanted to interrupt briefly, do a little temperature check here. It's we're about 2.5 hours into our 3-hour session, and I just wanted to check and see if those of you are still working on the labs, if you can raise your hand or let us know if you need anything. And want to make sure that we're, we can certainly wrap up early if folks are no longer working on the labs, but I know I am still working on mine, and just want to make sure we meet everyone's needs, make sure everybody's making progress that they want to make on the labs there. So we've got a couple still going. If anyone has any questions, we'll keep things open until 11, and I guess just hit us on the chat or raise your hand, and we can address your questions as they come up.
Hey, this is Jack Daniel. As Brian mentioned, we're getting kind of toward the end of our session. If you're still in the cloud share environment, if you wouldn't mind, take just a couple of minutes and go to that last tab in your environment and click on the feedback form. Palo Alto uses that to grade us, and also for the engineers that run these things, we actually get point credit for doing these. So if you wouldn't mind taking just a minute or two and go over and review that, that would help us out tremendously. We do appreciate you coming. The questions have all been great. If you have any questions or you want to get any more detailed information, you're more than welcome to reach out to me directly or Brian, or and we'll do what we can to answer your questions. Yes, Nate, what's up? You got a question?
Who was that towards, Jack?
Nate, he had a question. Okay, I got it. Sorry. Unless there's any questions or conversations, I want to thank all of you for coming today. If you would, please fill out the review or the review on the cloud share, which is under the feedback form in your cloud share environment. If you would fill that out, DNS would greatly be appreciated. Are there any questions about the lab? Are there any topics that you want to? We've got just a few minutes before we've got to run before the next session starts.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending. I appreciate your attentiveness and working through the labs. Just a quick note, it looks like the CloudShare lab will be available for another hour or so, so you're welcome to continue working in the lab. And as Jack said, thank you again very much for participating. And please do fill out that survey form that you can find there in the CloudShare site. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the Triad ISSA conference this week. So thank you so much, and we'll wrap things up now.